And we welcome you to This Is Wrestling. What a weekend. AEW All In, Saturday night's main event, the Great American Bash. And as we speak right now, WWE Evolution going on, which we will recap at a further time. But Versage and the one and only Hornsey. How are you, Zach? Dare I ask?
I am doing fine. And as you know, with fine, that doesn't usually mean it's fine. But for the sake of the recording today, I will say I am fine. I'm hoping for better later on this week. We'll see. But I will say, though, I am looking forward to this review of the All In show and everything that transpired from Saturday.
Yes, what a day, what a day, what a day. And I know that you kind of ran off quickly, probably because your head was not wanting to see anybody look them in the face with some of your picks as it went halfway through. But I think you meant to leave about 3/4 or 9/10 of the way through, but you end up leaving about halfway through.
Yes.
Because of prior commitments, Acclaim, the Dom Polski Hall, which I now realize is the Polish Combatants Center.
Correct.
Something like that in the beautiful nation's capital of Ottawa.
That's right.
And
in downtown.
Downtown, Centertown, and things are just getting better and better for one Mr. Junior Benito. So we'll talk about that another time. But what a show. AEW All In. It's good. I think as you ran off to do the show, I'm pretty sure you got home before the rest of us. We just got home. So
yeah,
it's about 24 hours afterwards. I think the show is ended. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
After 24 hours, we said, that's it. Call it quits. Anyway, tremendously long but eventful show in Texas. So if I had said to you before the afternoon started, this was going to be a 6-hour show, you would have said what?
I would have said, all right, I'll prepare myself for it, but it's probably going to be a little long for my liking. Now, granted, as we kind of mentioned, I did have to bow out during the middle of the show so I could call Acclaim, but I was able to catch up on the show. And I will say I very much appreciate the fast forward button as I was going through and realizing, oh my goodness, there's still a couple more hours to go here on the taping since I last left, because I left after the Swerve, Ospreay, and Young Bucks match. So,
did they win? By the way, I can't remember.
They did win, Lee. You called
it. Oh my
it.
God, we're gonna do a recap of that match with a bunch of overthinking experts, as I will call them. You know what, folks? Don't worry. The steady ship is here. Just follow my lead. Get it, Zach?
I understand.
Can't spell lead without Lee.
Yeah. The steady hand, Don Callis over here.
I might as well be.
Yeah.
Because, some people like to get a lot of way out there. But look, a 6-hour show, I think it's hard to say that that's a good thing in any promotion at any time. So there are some ups and downs. What I thought was a pretty good show, but when it went 6 hours, the lulls were big lulls in between. So a lot to talk about. So let's get right into how they opened the show, which I thought was fairly interesting. The Death Riders against the Ops for the Trios Championships. And I thought that this was an interesting way to start because there are a lot of options to start off your biggest show of the year with. This was not one I had on my bingo card to start, Zach.
Me neither. I thought it was going to be either one of the Casino Gauntlet matches to start off the show. I like the idea of the World Trios Championship being that sort of title that you can rely on to be your opener. Just be the match that can have all the moves, have all the excitement, just be a high pace, high action matchup to start off the show. I like the idea of the trios, but they haven't really gone all the way with that sort of concept with the World Trios Championship. And in this match, it kind of continued on where there was some good work here. Don't get me wrong. And there was some good stuff that was happening, but what you're kind of alluding to there, Lee, is that angle at the end after the match, after the Ops won.
So the Ops did retain the championships, and then it was Samoa Joe that was laid out, ended up having the chair around the neck and being stomped on and had to be stretchered out of the arena to begin things. So I don't love the choice of starting with this match just because I think there are a lot of other options to get the crowd up, especially when you know it's going to end this way. Yes, the Ops are winning, but you love to get the heat back story at the end. I know you do.
Oh.
It's one of your favorites.
Oh, I love me some 50-50 booking, Lee. It's one of my favorite things in professional wrestling, where you want to make sure you want one guy to win, but you don't want them to be too definitive in the win. So you got to give the heat back a little bit. Sparingly, it's fine. But we see it so much in professional wrestling nowadays. It's like, come on, let's just commit to a guy winning and getting all of their heat instead of going 50-50. So it's especially brutal in WWE, but AEW every once in a while can do it a little bit too much. And as a way to start off the show, not my favorite thing in the world. I was kind of going in afterwards and wondering if this is kind of setting up a theme for the show, because I've noticed with some AEW pay-per-views in the past, there's sometimes you can find a central theme with the AEW shows, like the one year where all the young guys won on an AEW pay-per-view. It's like, all right, we are committed to our youth movement here in the promotion. In this case, I was thinking maybe they're trying to allude to stuff here in terms of, good guy might prevail, but the bad guy is going to try and find a way to overcome and get their heat back. But very interesting start to the show. Match itself was not too bad. It wasn't anything you're gonna write home about or anything like that. There was some good work. That spot where Hobbs caught the guy while he was on the shoulders and doing that power slam was a wicked spot. But otherwise, it was a well worked match. It would be something I would see in maybe in a collision, like a collision main event or a higher level AEW show. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I think my problem with it is if you have the Trios Championship on the line and you're beginning a show with this, it should be really, really fast. It should be one of those matches that really takes the card and saying, okay, follow us. Because there's a lot of people to be involved in that can do that. And I think that's where my disappointment lies a little bit, is that the Ops are still your champions. Now their main guy is laid out. It wasn't a match to write home about. Why aren't you starting that way, where you're trying to gain the energy of the crowd instead of zapping it away early, especially knowing how possibly long this show is going to go? I did feel like it zapped the energy out. But so Samoa Joe gets taken out. When he'll be back, don't know. Seems like it'll be a while. And I'm guessing that you're going to see a return of Hook here into Joe's slot, but who knows exactly what's going to happen. We do know the Ops are the champions, but Joe is probably out for a while.
Yeah.
It then transitions into the men's casino gauntlet match. And for all of those people that thought, hey, what an opportunity here to maybe end this one early. Mark Briscoe, MJF, number 1, number 2 in the match. Do you want to do something where it ends early so that you can have it be as unpredictable as possible? Zach, that did not happen in this match. In fact, I believe there were 12 entrants. I could be mistaken on that, but I believe 12 people entered the match. All eight that were on the card and promoted to be in the match came into the match. Plus we had run-ins, we had 40 people. This was a very long match. So some of the people that came in that we did not get promoted into the match announced were Josh Alexander, Juice Robinson made an appearance, and therefore the Guns made an appearance because of Juice Robinson being out there, even though they were not technically in the match. There was a lot going on here. Max Caster came out as the last entrant. That was not my favorite last entrant, but MJF secures the world title shot after he is able to get the victory at the end. What'd you think of the men's casino gauntlet match?
Went much longer than I thought, as you kind of mentioned there. I'm looking at the times on the match, and it was the second longest match on the show at 34 minutes. I thought the pacing was pretty good. The thing about these gauntlet matches is when you throw in some star power, you throw in a little bit of surprise as well. These can be very entertaining matches going through, and it's something that AEW has done a good job of making it its own and making it feel unique to the promotion. We've had a lot of good gauntlet matches in the past, and I thought this was a really solid gauntlet. You had some intertwining stories there. I thought for sure, I'll say it on record for you, Mr. Versage, when Juice Robinson came out, I'm like, oh, if Juice is coming out, that means Lee's pick of Jay White is going to be coming out momentarily. And we got the Guns, but we did not get Jay White. So unfortunately for Mr. Versage, he did not get his Jay White run-in. That would have been the ultimate victory lap for Lee Versage if he was able to get one Jay White out and competing. But the match itself, I thought was a good gauntlet match. I kind of agree with you on Max Caster being the last one. It was a little bit of a letdown. I understand the connection with Anthony Bowens there and doing that story, but I think you could have switched it around. Maybe have Kota Ibushi come out at the end. But nonetheless, MJF wins. He's going to get the future title shot. I think it makes a ton of sense for him to do that, for him to be the guy to get the next title shot, whenever that might be, whether it be at Forbidden Door or All Out or wherever. So I thought it was a solid gauntlet match. Some good competitors in there. It's nice to see Juice back, although he looked very different from the last time we saw Juice out in the ring and MJF winning.
How different did Juice Robinson look? When his music hit, you're like, oh, Juice is back. You're like, that's not Juice.
Clean shaven, and it's got the black pants on, and kind of looked a little bit like I think somebody mentioned it at the party. He kind of looked like, chronic Bryan Adams a little bit when he was running out.
Yeah, somebody else said it looked like Juventud Guerrera.
Yeah, that was the other one. Yeah.
It kind of. I mean,
I could somewhat see that.
A little thicker than Juventud. But I thought this was anticlimactic, this match, to be honest. I liked it. I didn't love it. Probably the right winner when you boil it down to who is in the match, and for people to look forward to a world title match. MJF in a world title match always makes sense. He is one of your top people. And so to be able to have him win, I just thought it was anticlimactic with some of the other people in. Is that fair?
Look, yeah, I think that's fair. With Max Caster being at the end, I understand. I would have switched some participants around. But yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. But I think overall, as an overall package, I think what we got was pretty good. It was a solid gauntlet match for me. And yeah. So, but I see your point. You weren't chanting "Let's go, Max! You're the best wrestler alive."
Is that the chant?
That is the chant.
Let's go, Zach. You're the best broadcaster alive.
I like that chant. I'll take that
Mhm.
chant. Next time I go to Acclaim, I'll see if I could try and get that chant going. Little Chuck
Realize
Taylor.
That's the acclaimed.
See, there you go.
Right?
Making the connection. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah.
No, listen. I will make the connection. Yes. So I think one of the things that I don't love about this is, so we talked about the idea of the Casino Gauntlet match, and I really like the idea of it. I think it's one of the best ideas where you don't have a true number of contestants, so you don't know exactly who's going to come out, when they're going to come out, and the longer they come out, the more of an advantage they have. But who knows if they ever get to, because it could end early. I think there's a lot of good things that come from this. What I don't love about this is the fact that, do you know when he's getting the title match? Do you know, is it just a title match that's going to, like, is it a contract that he could, like a Money in the Bank that he could cash in at any time? Is it for a certain show? The uncertainty about what MJF won, to me, and Tony Khan not explaining that afterwards. He was asked about that and said, we're going to have to sit down with the winners and kind of figure that out. I'm like, what? What do you mean? So I think there's some loose ends that they need to tie up. They have a good idea. Having Max Caster come out last and them not knowing when the title shot is it a Money in the Bank? Is it just going to be a shot at a future pay-per-view? When is the pay-per-view? We don't know. I don't love those loose ends at all. So this is a really good idea. This was not executed to its best. And especially Tony Khan afterwards, kind of not knowing the rules to it. It's like, you should have an answer to that rather than we're going to sit down with the winners and figure it out. That's not the right answer when you're running this type of match for a future world title shot, in my opinion.
I agree. I especially because last year, because it was Christian that won it last year, right? And he used that as a Money in the Bank style thing, which I hated, and I still hate it. So the fact that they're not committal to that kind of indicates to me that they're moving away from that concept. But like what you said, there's nothing definitive coming out of it. I imagine we'll get some sort of clarity on Dynamite, but it would have been nice to have had that sort of clarity going into the matchup as opposed to having to wait a little bit.
Well, you'd like to know right now, is MJF facing the winner of Moxley Hangman at Forbidden Door, at All Out, at like Revolution? Like, what's happening here? Like,
right.
The uncertainty about it from the organization tells me that, oh, we've got a great idea. We just don't know how we're going to execute it yet. And nobody has sat down to figure this out. It just doesn't make any sense to me. In saying that, and I'll reiterate, I think this is a really good idea. Of all of the kind of gimmick matches, like the Royal Rumble is exciting because you know the person. They've got it exactly the opposite, right?
Yeah.
The Royal Rumble has 30 people in it, and you're waiting for all these surprise entrants that have zero chance. They have like jet speed's chance of winning the tag team title. Sorry to sort of ruin that for people.
Wow.
But 0.00 chance the surprise entrance in the Rumble, but the winner gets the title shot at the most important show of the year. You know that. So that in itself creates a lot of drama. The Casino Gauntlet's the opposite. It's a way better concept. You don't know how many people are going to be in it. You got to win soon because you don't know how many people, the people that are going to come out later, they're going to be fresh if they ever get out. And it's random times. It's random people. You don't know who, you don't know when. I love it. You could have surprise entrants. You could do like they did at the All In show, where with the men they announced 8, with the women they announced 2. So there's a whole lot of directions that you can go with it, with a world title shot hanging there in the balance. But you got to figure it out, and you got to explain to people what is going on. And the fact that nobody knew that beforehand, MJF wins, and now the boss is asked about it afterwards. Like, you think Triple H would be like, we're gonna sit down with Damian Priest and we're gonna figure it out after he won Money in the Bank? Like, no. So it's just get your ass together here. Get your ducks in a row, because you got a really good product, a really good show, really good concept, and you haven't figured it out yet. That's kind of how I felt, Zach. And the fact that between the first match and this match, we were more than an hour into the show and 2 matches had happened.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You'll have to remind me, was it Adam Cole that came out next?
Yes.
Okay. So then Adam Cole comes out, and he's a whole subject in itself. We heard before the show began that Adam Cole was going to relinquish the TNT Championship. He would be unable to compete in the match with Kyle Fletcher for the TNT Championship. He came out, had the belt, and pretty much right away you knew that this was not a show. And to me, you're almost waiting, like, if they turn this into some sort of angle, they got me and they got everybody. But they did not. Adam Cole was crying a lot in the ring, giving up the title, and very quickly said, "This is not a retirement speech, but I do not know when I am going to be back. And if this is the last time that I see you," and you had Roderick Strong out there, you had Kyle O'Reilly out there, and this is a heartfelt moment in a world that we don't really see a lot of genuine heartfelt moments. They're few and far between in the wrestling industry, Zach. And this was one, because it felt like, I thought Adam Cole was okay, and now he's not only relinquishing the title, but sounds like he's going away for a very long time. And then the other thing about that is, once the show ended, you saw on social media a ton of wrestlers and people that are not affiliated with AEW give their very, very best to Adam Cole, which kind of says how real this is. It was heartfelt. It was tough to watch, even though Adam Cole has not been the same. This was a tough moment, I think, for a lot of people, including me.
Yeah, it was quite shocking when he came out and made that announcement, especially when he was kind of mulling that over. You could tell that he was battling emotions as he was talking and trying to fight back through a lot of tears. And at first it's as a wrestling fan, you kind of watch some things, like, you hope things are kind of a work. You hope this isn't what's happening, but you kind of realize the way that he was just tearing up, and this was pretty clear. This was a guy pouring his heart out there, telling his thoughts and how he's feeling. Just brutal to hear about. And like what you said, Adam Cole was a discussion over the last couple of weeks about where he was at in his career, but this is just really tough to see and to hear. The words were very genuine as he was speaking. And I know that there are some folks on the indies here as well. You were mentioning with outside of AEW, WWE wrestlers as well. I know some of the indie wrestlers here that have worked with Adam Cole speak very highly about his character and who he is as a human being. So just a really sad, unexpected, if you were a fan, kind of watched it live, especially with the news coming out that he was forced to relinquish the title. So really an emotional moment. And I will say, as kind of a transition to the next match, I think that sort of sentiment and the sadness was kind of hanging over this next match here for the TNT Championship.
Yeah, we'll have another discussion on, if and when we'll see Adam Cole. A lot of love for him from a ton of people. And, I think it goes to show you that you don't have to be a jerk, even though he played a jerk when he was at his best in NXT with the black and gold and the Undisputed Era, that almost everyone's saying this wasn't just a nice guy. This is like the best guy. And to hear that from so many different people makes it tough, right? For this is all he's ever done, all he ever wanted to do. And I'm guessing, there's no real news. Was that spot with Kyle Fletcher on Collision something people want to make it seem like it? It doesn't look like it now from all reports, even though it kind of looked bad.
Are you
But
talking
I
about
think
that power bomb on the apron, or are you
Yeah.
talking about? Okay,
Yeah.
That spot was from a couple of weeks ago. Now, I will say, I think people are kind of getting fooled. I don't want to break the inner workings or whatnot, but it kind of looked like he hit his head, but the way that they did it, he put his hand out and
Mhm.
hit the apron, and so it made it look like it. It's one of those illusion things, anyways. It sounds like, based on what I'm reading, like, I saw Sean Ross Sapp report it is a concussion that he's dealing with. Adam
Yeah,
Cole.
it would have to be.
Yeah.
Because look, if this is a broken bone, people come back from broken bones, even from big leg injuries, or like, people come back.
Yeah.
This is something that is going to alter the rest of his life, right? So it had to be a concussion.
Yeah, so that's the report out there, and I think I saw it was mentioned on Wrestling Observer Radio that the spot in question was actually, weirdly enough, it was during the tag match against Kyle Fletcher, where Cole took a clothesline, and that's where it's being mentioned where the concussion came in. Obviously, it's something that's still kind of developing, and we'll probably learn some more information the next couple of days, but that seems to be the early reporting right now on what's kind of the status of Adam Cole. So still very unfortunate. We know with him, he's had a history of concussions. And with what we know about CTE now, and the effects, long-standing effects, and having multiple concussions can do to somebody, obviously tough, but clearly a decision was made to keep him out long-term if this is a pretty significant concussion.
Well, the thing that interests me about this is that this just happened, right? Like a few days ago, and he woke up not feeling very well, like either the day before the show, the day of the show. What I find interesting is that if it's a concussion, some are not so bad. So for him to be able to go out there, like, to make that sort of decision that quickly, to go out and say it is a retirement, but I don't know if you'll ever see me again. I would wonder how much they really know. If he just suffered this concussion a couple of days ago, how could they possibly know?
Yeah.
This feels like a very emotional reaction to, he's had concussions before. He just got another one. He can't compete here, and he is not emotionally together right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that they kind of let him go out there and be that way. I just don't know that this is, I'm trying to say this properly. I don't know how much information they have on Adam Cole if he just suffered a concussion, on how it could be that long term and that quickly. Because with concussions, you actually don't know.
Yep.
Now, he's got the history, right? And when it's like, if something keeps happening to you over and over, and then you get to the biggest show and it happens to you again and you can't compete, you're very emotional about that at the time. I just found it interesting that he would go out and talk that long term with something that has just happened that might not be as bad as they're thinking, but maybe he just said, I got the concussion. You know what? I am going to shut it down. Could be an emotional thing, though, and I want people to know that. So we get right into the new fatal four-way match for the TNT Championship. You had Kyle Fletcher, and then you had Daniel Garcia, who gave Adam Cole a long kind of hug and talked to him before he came out. And then you had the Sons of Texas, Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes coming out. So I'll leave this one up to you, Zach, because this to me was felt like 40, 41 degrees here in Ottawa. We were all watching outside by the pool. This was pool break time, because if you're ever you're an hour and a half into the show, Adam Cole is giving it up. Tell me I'm wrong that anybody thought that somebody else other than Kyle Fletcher was going to win this. So it was like, okay, I'm going to go in the pool. I can see the TV from the pool, but I'm going to go in the pool. I'm going to relax. Kyle Fletcher in about 15 minutes is going to be your new TNT champion. And what happened, Zach? What happened?
Well, I was watching the match, and all of a sudden, Dustin Rhodes has got Daniel Garcia in a pinning predicament, and he counts the referee 1, 2, 3, and I yelled out, "Oh my God, he got him!" And you turned around and said, "Who got him?" I said, "Dustin Rhodes got him. He's your new TNT champion." After 15
Doc, you must
minutes.
be mistaken. You're blind. You're watching the TV, but that couldn't have happened.
Nope, I saw it with my very own eyes. Dustin Rhodes, in the year of our Lord 2025, is a champion in professional wrestling.
First singles title since 1996
Really?
as Goldust.
Wow. I did not know that.
Why I like to say things.
Wow.
Because you don't know them.
Wow.
No, that is actually true. I hadn't held a singles title before that, so that's a long time.
Holy moly.
1996 and 2025.
Wow.
For Dustin Rhodes. Okay, so they clearly did not have a long-term plan to put this on Dustin Rhodes. Do you agree with I called it at the time the Zack Ryder effect?
Yes.
Where Zack Ryder won the Intercontinental title in a ladder match at WrestleMania. Nobody thought he was ever going to win. And he had his moment. That moment was taken away the very next night on Raw as The Miz beat him in front of his dad for the Intercontinental Championship. But he did have his moment. Is this the Zack Ryder moment? And are we going to see that title stripped away from Dustin Rhodes very, very quickly? And what do you think of the moment about giving it to him in the decision in the first place?
I agree with you. I don't think this is going to be long. I think they just did this as, a make good. He's born in Texas. They call him the natural, Lee. Natural as can be, one Dustin Rhodes. So I think this is a short-term thing. I don't imagine if he makes it all the way to All Out, I'd be stunned. And even to Forbidden Door, in a sense, I'd be stunned. I think this is one of those things where they obviously had to change the match, and they decided, you know what? Let's give the crowd a pop. Let's give it to the hometown guy. Let's give it to the guy who's in a tag team, literally called the Sons of Texas, and kind of move forward here. I was surprised. I did not expect Dustin Rhodes to win. I thought this was just sort of a make good to have some baby faces in there so that Kyle Fletcher could eventually win. But the idea could simply be, we can wait on Kyle Fletcher a little bit in terms of his crowning moment, in terms of getting a title. Personally, I would have put it at All In on the biggest show, but I don't think Fletcher is killed or anything like that. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. Again, I think this is one of those short-lived things, like the comparison you made to Zack Ryder, where just sort of a thing to kind of pop the crowd. Even the crowd, though, was kind of stunned. I mean, I will say about the match, it was the crowd was very quiet, and I think it was a combination of what they just saw earlier with that speech from Adam Cole, combined with the fact that this match had very little to no heat being put together, because neither of these guys, other than maybe Daniel Garcia and Fletcher, have any sort of previous connection to each other. And so it led to a lot of moments where it was pretty quiet as the match was going on. So, but when Dustin Rhodes won, there was a reaction when it comes to the hometown guy being able to win. So, yeah, I all that to say, I do see this as a short-lived title reign. I'd be stunned if it gets past Forbidden Door or and all the way to All Out. I think it's just something to pop the crowd.
Yeah, I'm indifferent about this because I get the decision to pop the crowd, and I get the fact that pretty much a grown man at 56 years old that hasn't had a title in 30 years in the world of professional wrestling gets one, and it's his crowning moment, and you take it off of soon. But I still think if I'm going to be critical of the WWE, which I am, for Goldberg, for John Cena is not quite 50 yet, but he looks like he is. Ron Killings, like a number of people in their 50s in prominent roles in the WWE. This wasn't kind of a one-off. Dustin Rhodes had 2 championship belts before this. He had the Ring of Honor Trios Championship and the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship. Am I correct?
You would be correct.
Right. So he is supposed to be there to bring other people along and to provide them with some guidance. I understand what they've done here. I understand they'll probably take it off of him pretty quickly. And it was just giving him a moment and maybe giving the crowd a little bit of life after Adam Cole had a lot of people in tears right before that. It was like, now we're going to put it on a bad guy right after Adam Cole was crying and a lot of other people were crying. Why don't we kind of turn those frowns upside down and give it to somebody that they won't expect and that there'll be a pop? So I get the thinking behind the decision, but I still don't love it.
Yeah.
I still probably would have gone in another direction. And even if you wanted, like if you're going to do that to me, have Dustin Rhodes go after and almost replace Adam Cole, go up against Kyle Fletcher and beat him. And you can lose to him on Wednesday. You can lose to him whenever. But I don't know. Like he pinned Daniel Garcia, who never had the championship in the first place. I know that's how 3-ways and 4-ways work. But the protection of Kyle Fletcher in this match ended up being, I don't know, like Dustin Rhodes pinned Daniel Garcia, and we have ourselves a new 56-year-old TNT champion. Just not a decision that I think is beneficial short-term or long-term, but they get their pop. They probably pleased a lot of people in the company and in the state of Texas. So we'll see how long. I'd be stunned if he had this belt for more than a week. Like I just would be. Like, as you said, well, is he going to defend against somebody at Forbidden Door? Like that doesn't interest me. So anyway, I thought it was an interesting decision, but Dustin Rhodes is your new TNT champion. Do you know what's next, Zach?
I do know what's next. This was the match, the last match I saw with you guys before I had to book it and head over to Acclaim.
So our good friend, Ben Sublier, who hosted people over at his house, always draws up a pick'em card. And I know that he spreads that on the internet and makes a lot of money from it, apparently. But
Yep. Millions and millions of dollars, apparently.
But he does a really good job with the kind of caricatures and putting some different like stipulations on the match. So you not only have to pick the winner of the match, but you have to pick like a sidebar. I mean, the sidebar bet on this match was the over/under on super kicks. And I learned my lesson one time when I decided that picking the under was a good proposition about a year ago. And it got annihilated that night. I think I don't know, the number was 5.5, 6.5. And I think that night Zach was like 17 or 20 or like
Yep.
something ridiculous. So I said, okay, never again. Never again. What'd you pick?
I picked the under, Lee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I picked the under.
I thought I gave some.
Not only did I pick the under in this match, I picked the under in every single match that there was an under.
Yes, I'm going to tell people about the gauntlet one, but that combines both of them. So I'll tell people about that one in a minute as
Okay.
well. Sometimes I think I hang around really smart people, and then I hung around you guys yesterday. So, it goes to show me that not just you, Zach, but a lot of people. Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay against the Young Bucks. If the Young Bucks lose, they lose their EVP titles. And if Swerve and Ospreay lose, they cannot contend for the world title for 1 year. And I'll just set this up where most people that I was around decided that this is going to be the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks are going to win this. You can do, and people started rationalizing all kinds of things that you can have Swerve and Will Ospreay not be around, and you can make another title, and you can do this, and you can do that. I'm like, guys, your brain's a bit scrambled right now. Let me set you straight. You are not taking the two best wrestlers in the company and saying they can't compete for their world title for a year. No, guys, listen, this is the way it goes. And Lee, you got to think about it in a different way. What I will say, Zach, and you can tell us about the over-under and the super kicks. You can tell us about who won.
Yeah.
But I will tell everybody before that, this is a hell of a match.
Yes.
And this was, if you think that Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland are maybe the best wrestlers in the world, and if you believe that the Young Bucks are close to being, if not the best tag team in the world, then your expectations were really high. And this one blew them out of the water again. And it showed me that these four are still the best at their craft. This was just an incredible match. Great execution, great storyline, all kinds of things going on in the match that were executed. And I just thought that they told the story as well as they possibly could in this one. You can deliver the news of what happened.
Yes. Okay. I sure can. I will say, though, there were a lot of great near falls as well. Every sort of near fall for each team, we were all kind of biting on. It was a really excellent match. If there was any concern that maybe the Young Bucks have lost a step as they continue to get a little bit older, and they're a couple of years now in AEW, and maybe they were time away, maybe a little rusty. I think all that was kind of thrown out the window. If there are any concerns about that with the Bucks, they were fantastic here. Swerve and Ospreay continue to show why they're some of the best wrestlers in the world today. This was a tremendous match, really well done. And I will say I was a little surprised that the Bucks won, or rather, Swerve and Ospreay won. I was thinking the Bucks were going to win. I explained it on the last show. I know you say it's this crazy idea. How could AEW take one of their top stars and take him away from the world title scene? Well, Lee Versage, if you recall, at the start of AEW when Cody Rhodes had his future title shots removed entirely when he was with All Elite Wrestling. So it's not that crazy of an idea, but I think in this case, you had them wanting to continue to have some babyface moments on the biggest show of the year. You want to have some of your top stars winning, and that's what happened here. And now I will not beat around the bush, and I will talk about how the over-under on this match in terms of super kicks was 5.5, I believe, was the number. 5.5 over-under. And I was thinking, well, maybe they'll go under. Like, I know it's the Young Bucks and they do super kicks, but I thought there was other elements of the story that they could do and kind of emphasize the super kicks in a different way and maximize them by you doing less of them. I was wrong, quite wrong in terms of the amount of super kicks that were delivered. What was the final tally of super kicks there, Lee?
I stopped counting at 15. I think there were more.
I think
but
17 was the
stopped.
number I heard, but
Okay. Yeah. I stopped counting at 15.
yeah,
Thinking this is 3 times the amount. My favorite part of this match was like Zach. So when Matt and Nick, they both like super kick Will Ospreay, and they do it as a team in tandem. You know that counts for 2, right?
yes,
And Zach's like,
yeah,
that's a good point. Like, I didn't really think of that.
yeah.
Yeah. So then if they did it, I don't know, like in tandem to Ospreay and then in tandem to Strickland, like right away, that's 4.
That's 4 right away.
Yeah. So anyway, folks, it went over by a lot. But
Yeah.
when people ask, and I'm kind of making fun of you and being sarcastic and all that stuff, but I will get serious for a minute and say the one thing that AEW needed to do, which they hadn't done in a while, but the last few months, they have really focused in on the best wrestlers in the company and putting them in prime positions. And my whole point in the wrestling industry right now is that if you are going to go up against the WWE and the powerhouse that they are, if they are presenting like they did last night at Saturday night's main event, Goldberg at 58 years old in a main event for the world title, if they're going to present, the LA Knights, and I mentioned before, like some of the elder statesmen, you have to counter with the best in the world because you have Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland that if you don't think that they're the top in the world, okay, we can have a discussion about it. But they're top 5. Both of them are. And AEW probably has close to the top 5 in their company. They weren't using them properly. But now if you're going to counter the biggest promotional vehicle in the world in WWE, you better have your best at the forefront at your biggest show of the year. And that was really my point, that you can do the Cody Rhodes thing. I think it's already been done, and it still wasn't a great angle when they did it. But Will Ospreay, like Cody Rhodes wasn't the best wrestler in the world at that time. Will Ospreay is. Swerve is right there. And you can't take 2 people out of that title picture. You need to actually throw, and we'll talk about, Okada and Omega were wrestling, and MJF wins the Casino Gauntlet, and Hangman Page and Moxley are in the main event, and we had some returnees at the end that we'll talk about. But you got 7, 8, 9 guys that are just the cream of the crop in the wrestling world. Use them. And use them properly, because when people get tired of going to see Jelly Roll in a main event in SummerSlam, because that's happening, Goldberg in the main event of Saturday night's main event, because that happened, if people don't want to watch that, some do. I understand that. We're going to talk about at another time where the WWE has gone with this Cena stuff and Jelly Roll coming in and like all kinds of entertainment superstars, but their wrestling has always suffered a little bit. It has really, really, really suffered in the last 6 months. If you're going to counter that, you counter that with things that people want to see if they are not happy with that product. So for me, I am one of those. I don't want to see Jelly Roll in the middle of a Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre feud. I don't need it. I like Jelly Roll. I think he's awesome. He's everywhere that he possibly can be, but he's not in SummerSlam for me. Like, I don't care. I don't care to watch Bill Goldberg in the main event. People said, well, he's riled people up emotion-wise, good or bad. No, he hasn't. I didn't watch. I'll go back and watch it. I know what happened. I didn't watch it. So if I want something different than watching either people who were really great in 95 or 2000 or entertainment superstars, if I want something different from that, I want to see Osprey and Strickland and Page and MJF and Moxley and Omega and Okada. And you get the point. That's what I want if I don't want the other stuff. I think AEW is doing a really good thing. And that's why I was so adamant about these guys winning. And you can't take them out of the picture. Sure, you could make it work in a storyline. It's not the smart thing to do business-wise. This was a match, Zach, I would tell people, you need to go back and watch this match.
Yep.
And I haven't had a lot of those lately. Certainly nothing on the card at that point had been that way. And it's funny, I say that a lot, and I'm not trying to overhype the guy because I like him. I certainly say that a lot when it comes to matches that involve Will Ospreay.
Yep.
So, but all four of them should be commended. This was a match I would absolutely tell people, you got to go back and watch this.
For sure. By the way, should mention as well, had a JoJo Offerman doing a cover of Shaka Khan's Ain't No Body. Good little cover there.
Tremendous. The Assassin's Creed intro for Will Ospreay. Again, unbelievable. I thought they did a really good job on the entrances. -1 maybe that I thought was going to be better than what, but we'll talk about that in a second. But Swerve and Will, they win, and the Young Bucks are no longer EVPs. I don't like the gimmick, so I'm glad they're out of that gimmick and they can go on to something else. And Swerve and Will be involved in title pictures. Now, the Women's Casino Gauntlet match for the future AEW Women's World Championship. We only knew that Chris Statlander and Megan Bayne were your first two entrants. And that's all we knew at that point. I will tell people that Statlander and Megan Bayne in there, Willow Nightingale, Ty Mello, Thekla, Julia Hart, Queen Eminata, Mina Shirakawa, Athena, Thunder Rosa, Shuri, and Alex Windsor all came out afterwards. Before we say who won, Zach, did you like the women's gauntlet match and the number of entrants that you really had no idea who was going to be there because they only announced 2?
Yeah, I like this women's casino gauntlet match more. And I think because of the fact that there was a little bit more of an unpredictability factor to this, where we didn't have a lot of the names announced beforehand. We just had the first 2 names announced. I enjoyed this. I like the names that they brought out there. And the big thing with the women's casino gauntlet doing this sort of match is that it's a great showcase of their women's division as well, and just how strong it is, and just the different levels of talent that they've got. Now you throw in Shuri, who's coming over, I believe, from Stardom. I have heard from our Joshi expert, the Predict Trevor, telling me to keep an eye on Shuri, and she is currently on excursion. So it sounds like we're going to be seeing a lot more of her in AEW in the future, which should be good. But also getting a chance to showcase Willow Nightingale and Queen Aminata and Mina Shirakawa. You know, Ty Mello making her return. Thekla continuing her establishment on the AEW roster. So I thought this was a stronger match in a sense that it was a little bit more unpredictable. And I think that's something that Tony Khan should kind of take with him in the future and say, you know what, let's just get the first 2, and then everything else is a little bit more unpredictable.
So the unpredictable nature of this was that someone was probably going to win that was off the board. Athena ends up pinning Mina Shirakawa, and Athena is your gauntlet winner after what I believe was 30 I gotta look it up again.
I have it as
I think it was
27
around
minutes exactly.
27 minutes exactly. Okay. I thought this one was sloppy. I thought it was just okay. I didn't love the execution again. Maybe that's hard, but I just thought that this one was okay. I thought it was a little bit sloppy.
Yep.
What
Fair
did
enough.
you think?
Yeah, I the spot that I'm thinking of, I think Ty Mello was trying to go for a crucifix or something like that, or some sort of head scissor, and they just kind of both landed. I specifically remember that spot in that match. Yeah, it wasn't the cleanest. I will admit that. But I still enjoyed it for what it was in terms of the unpredictability. And of course, it's funny. I say unpredictability, but I did predict Athena winning this Casino Gauntlet match on our preview show, so I will give myself a pat on the back, Barry Horowitz style on that one. But yeah, I thought it was solid. I liked it a little bit more than the men's one. But there were definitely moments where it's like, oh, that wasn't exactly the cleanest between the competitors. So
Is she the right choice?
I think so, in terms of, the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and getting her back on the roster, and giving her a title opportunity. I think there is still some name value just based on her title run in Ring of Honor. How much stock you want to put into that with her, 7,643 day or however long title reign she has with the Ring of Honor World Championship. You could be the judge of that. But I think in terms of some legitimacy and just kind of reestablishing her back on the main roster, I know they slowly introduced that during the Owen Hart tournament, but I like the pick. I think it's something fresh, and it works well either way on whoever was going to win the Toni Storm Mercedes Moné match. I thought with the Mercedes Moné pick, with her, having all the titles on her, that would be a logical next step to try and go after another championship belt. But it would have also worked for Toni Storm in the sense you would have a fresh opponent for her coming off of a title defense. So I think it works very well.
All right. Well, let's get into the Hurt Syndicate. The patriarchy and 0.00%. Those are the three teams that were in it.
Who's the 0.0%? I'm trying to look at on the run sheet here.
Yeah, it was Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey.
Oh, Jet Speed. Gotcha.
Right.
Sam Mitchell on joining the podcast here. 0.000.
One of the greatest clips in the history of sports. Sam Mitchell. I told my guys, you're gonna quit. I told him to quit. Guys had a stat line 0.00000. I mean, the best part too is the "I mean" at the end.
Yeah,
like that's a coach after the game talking about his own team. Yep. Incredible. When he was the coach of the Toronto Raptors. I digress. The Hurt Syndicate. Zach, I picked the patriarchy on the show, and I want to tell people I came to my senses beforehand and smartly, expertly picked the Hurt Syndicate to retain. It was the one thing I said, you know what? I go with my head too often. Or my heart too often, and I need to just pick with my head. And I switched my pick. Wouldn't you know, Zach? The Hurt Syndicate are still your world tag team champions. But that was not the big thing. The big thing was at the end, because FTR was on commentary, and we had a huge angle after the match. Tell us about it.
For sure. Before I do that, I like how you sort of redirected the fact that you were not all in on your pick on a show called All In. Folks, it's not called I'm Folding. It's not called, The River or anything like that. Take any sort of poker terms. It's called All In. And Lee Versage was not all in on his tag team title pick on the card.
No, I was, Zach. I was all in with emotion because my father, Christian Cage, he swept me up in the emotion. He does that to me. And I had some time to think about it. And I want people to know, and I'm going to apologize. I led you astray. My heart was bigger than my head. Often happens. I have a big heart.
Big Heart Lee Versage. Sorry, Lee Big Heart Versage. We have to establish that with the nicknames. Yeah.
Mainstream to you.
Mainstream. Lee Mainstream Versage. Not mainstream Lee Versage. Lee
right.
Mainstream Versage.
Yeah. But I did not give you, as a listener, sage advice. Okay? I didn't give that to you. Should be the name of the show. Sage advice. Versage advice. So anyway, I did switch my pick, and I was correct again. However, the angle afterwards with FTR, the patriarchy, and I have to say, this is probably the most excited I've been to see Mr. Copeland in a while, because I think what's going to happen is we are going to get an incredible match coming up at All Out in Toronto in September.
That is correct. We had the return of Cope making the run out, having his song played in front of 25,000 people, or however many people were in attendance at Globe Life Field. I thought this was a great angle. It kind of got me a little off guard. I figured it was coming, but I didn't think they would do it at this show. It makes a lot more sense now, given the gravity of the angle and the time and place that they did it. But I thought maybe they would save it for a little bit later. But they did it here. Nick Wayne turns on Christian Cage, and the whole patriarchy really turning their backs on Christian Cage. Copeland making the save, and I thought it was I thought it was very smart how they did this, because you had FTR out there, as you mentioned, and that's really Cope's beef right now, is with FTR for the turn. And so Cope is coming out making the save to try and run off FTR while also getting after the patriarchy, but not exactly fully committing to getting back with Christian Cage, saying, go find yourself at the end with the promo. And so, yeah, I thought this was a great angle. Sets up, the future tag team of Cope and Christian Cage reuniting. And I would imagine that that would involve FTR as well, being involved in that feud. So we're kickstarting that. I thought this was really well done. And yeah, this was real good stuff following the tag team title match.
And what I really like about this, as well as, there are different callbacks, right? And do you remember when the patriarchy formed? And it was Christian Cage kind of getting who was it? And did the unprettier to them, and that's kind of how a lot of it was formed in the first place. And that's exactly how they did it back, as Nick Wayne did it to Christian, which I thought was a really nice callback. I do like the fact that they're with a group. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's with Jungle Boy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I was worried about is like, okay, well, how are the patriarchy going to continue on, because they don't have a talker if they're going to turn on Christian, and associating not only with FTR, but especially, who did not do a good job on commentary again, by the way, but Stokely Hathaway as the mouthpiece for everybody is fantastic. And now you have a real group that's together, and you have, what will be the return of Adam Copeland and Christian together back in Toronto. And I think it's going to be, and going up against FTR, who are, very good friends of theirs in real life, and have been around for a very long time, with especially Adam Copeland, but with Christian as well. So I think the four of them are going to blow the roof off in Toronto, which is going to be just an amazing thing to see. So I was like you, I kind of thought they might leave him laying there, and they would bring Copeland back at another time, maybe the end of a Dynamite. But they decided to pull the trigger, and I get it. Big show, huge pop, and the go find yourself instead of the go bleep yourself. I thought was a nice touch as well. So
totally agree. One thing I should mention too with the World Tag Team title match, something I forgot to mention with the Hurt Syndicate, and I I always have to emphasize it with Hurt Syndicate whenever they go in. You know, we always hear the rumors. We've been hearing the rumors the last little bit about, you know, are they willing to do jobs and, you know, are they willing to take losses? What is kind of the future arc of the Hurt Syndicate and where it's going? But I think the one thing we have to remember with the Hurt Syndicate, and we always have to remember, is that they hurt people.
Yeah. You know what, Zach? Just like I didn't know if it was going to come, but it came. Adam Copeland and your line of gotta remember that they hurt people.
Got to get my stuff in.
Yeah, especially because you picked Kevin Knight to win the World Tag Team Championship.
You're so tough on
cool.
that guy, on old Kevin Knight. What did he do? Seems like a nice enough little guy. Nice enough wrestler.
Does seem like a nice guy, but winning the Tag Team Championship at the biggest show of the year? Get your head on straight. Come on.
You don't want to cheer for Mike Bailey, the local guy?
Oh, I like to cheer for him to perform well. He should not have the World Tag Team Championship at the biggest show. He just got there. I'm, again, nicknaming them 0.00. They are Sam Mitchell. They're not Jet Speeder anymore. They're Sam Mitchell.
They're Sam Mitchell.
Let's get to Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné for the AEW Women's World Championship. It goes over 24 minutes. And I think this was a bit of a shocker, at least to us. I don't believe anyone at our viewing party had picked Toni Storm to retain the championship, but that's exactly what happened. It is the first pinfall loss in the AEW career of Mercedes Moné after being there for a year and a half. I thought the entrances were incredible. Both of them. All the titles around the cheerleaders. When Mercedes Moné with the robe, with every single woman that she's beat coming out, and then an incredible entrance from Toni Storm as well. I thought they did just a marvelous job with this. Toni Storm retains, and I don't mind, like, this is one I don't mind being wrong on because it's nice to be surprised. It's nice to not know where they're going. Had the big fight feel. The one thing for me, Zach, that I don't know exactly, but you can, you know, maybe we'll find out in the future, or you can shed some more light. It looked like Mercedes Moné was not quite there the last 5 or 6 minutes of this match. It looked like she got her bell rung. A couple of kickouts I thought were very sloppy, and she barely got her arm up, and she just didn't look like she was all there to me in the last 5 or 6 minutes. Kind of ruined it for me a little bit, just because, and I hope she's okay, and maybe she is okay, but I just didn't think it was as crisp, and she kind of looked out of it for me the last few minutes of the matchup. But let's talk about the match and the decision, Toni Storm retaining that championship.
Yeah, it's interesting you pointed that out because that was also something I noticed near the end. It seemed a little bit loopy at the end, so I do wonder if it was just, as you mentioned, a case of just the bell getting run or whatnot. But even before that, though, I thought this was a very good match. I thought these two worked well, and I thought they had some pretty good chemistry here. I was surprised about the Toni Storm results. I thought that they would be continuing on with this Mercedes Moné belt collector deal, especially with the Athena win earlier on. When I was watching the replay, I was thinking, oh, well, if Athena's winning, that might tip off this women's world title match. But no, they're continuing on with Toni Storm. Obviously, this has been something that this is a gimmick that Tony Khan absolutely loves, and the fans too, the AEW watchers. And so I think they're just continuing on with that and just kind of continuing to build up this wrestling character in Toni Storm and continuing to have her really be the face of this women's division. And, you know, I think in terms of building up Mercedes Moné, it was kind of funny watching some of the online deal because we have now moved away from Chris Jericho being the modern day Hulk Hogan, which, by the way, the modern day Hulk Hogan, Chris Jericho, what a selfish human being by not being on the biggest show of All Elite Wrestling at all, not being mentioned one time. Oh, yeah, that modern day Hulk Hogan really taking all the spotlight and the limelight. But we have now moved away from Chris Jericho and now gone to Mercedes Moné because people
You're
don't
getting all your spots in, eh?
I'm getting all my spots in today. I'm fired up.
Yeah.
So now we're going to Mercedes Hogan, right? We always got to find the Hogan boogeyman now. We got to find who is the modern day Hulk Hogan, because we realize the ones that we want to be Hulk Hogan are very weak in terms of explanations of why they're the modern day Hulk Hogan. But now with Mercedes, because people don't understand this concept of a push, where you push a wrestler to win a lot of their matches so that they look strong, so that when you beat that wrestler, the person that beats that wrestler looks strong because they beat the strong wrestler. It's very complex. It's nothing you've ever seen with professional wrestling before, obviously. And so, but people seem to not understand this concept with Mercedes Moné, calling her Mercedes Hogan because she won all these title belts that everybody knew those promotions before she won those title belts, of course. And so obviously on the biggest stage, you would think somebody with the nickname of Hogan would come in there and wave the finger and say, no, brother, I'm not putting my shoulders down on the mat. But lo and beholdly, she took the fall. It's Toni Storm getting the victory. And it goes back to trying to build up Toni Storm and have her be the face of the women's division. So yeah, there was a little bit of some loopiness at the end, but overall, I still thought this was a stronger match. And it really kind of kicked off the second half of the show with what they were calling it the triple main events, that I was like, oh, this has been some really good stuff here so far, and yep. Toni Storm getting the victory.
Yeah, it's an interesting call. What they do from here, especially with Athena winning, like you wonder, does Athena end up sneaking out a win and then defending against Mercedes? Or, do they go another route with Toni Storm hanging on to this belt, defending at Forbidden Door and getting involved in some other feuds? I don't know, but I guess we're going to find out, because right now I don't know where they're going to go with Mercedes or Toni Storm. But as a wrestling fan, that's okay. That's good, because you hope that they're going to entertain you at that point. All right, let's get into the second last match, the second of our three main events, and that is Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega for the Unified Championship, the Continental Championship, the International Championship being unified to make one title. These two had not wrestled since 2018. Some of the greatest professional wrestling matches of all time. I thought, Zach, for me, that, and I'm really interested to hear, your thoughts on this match. I will tell you that of all the entrances that I thought were just incredible, these were not two of them, especially Kenny Omega's. I don't know if it was kind of overdone or what exactly they were trying to get across. It came across as long and not that interesting to me. I was a little disappointed in kind of the way that they got to the ring, because everybody else had such a good time and great production in getting there. And maybe it's just me. Maybe everyone loved it and I didn't, but I didn't love it. Interested to hear your thoughts on that and the match.
Yeah, in terms of the entrances, I was, I'm not too crazy about entrances in general in wrestling, but with a match like this, you do want to have it feel like it's this big time matchup. Obviously, with these two, I've watched those matches back in 2017, 2018 when I was really deep into New Japan, and I've seen all four of those matches: the draw, the G1. The G1 tie, the first match at Wrestle Kingdom, and the Dominion match. I mean, just incredible matches that people need to go and watch if they want to see some of the best professional wrestling. So I was going into this, trying to get hyped up. The entrances didn't really do that for me. I've heard Kenny Omega's music work in a big stadium before, funny enough, at the Tokyo Dome when he returned against Gabe Kidd. And I was thinking, oh, this is a big grand entrance and maybe this is something he could use. But ever since then, it really hasn't hit the same. And yeah, Okada's entrance, I was hoping for a little bit more, especially from somebody that I know in a big stadium. He can really come across like a big star. Once they got into the ring and the bell run and we had the opening bell pop with the crowd standing up, I'm not going to lie, I did have a little bit of goosebumps. I was slapping him like The Rock when I was watching it, getting excited. It was taking me back. So they got me on that one, I will admit. And seeing these two in the ring for the first time since 2018 was quite the sight. I thought these two had a very good match. A lot. It would be a lot of people's match of the night for some. And for me, I thought this was the weakest match of all the matches that they've had. And it's weird for me to say that because I thought this was still a very good match. And I thought they built this well around Kenny Omega's midsection. And obviously, they talked about the diverticulitis and how that was building up throughout the show. And one of the things, we're talking about getting stuff in. I'm going to get another thing in. I won't belabor the point, but you know, on the last show, the Saudi Arabia show, I was talking about the Randy Orton match and how people were kind of praising his back selling. And I was saying, well, he's selling the back, but it's not led to anything in the finish. So he's just selling the back for the sake of selling the back, but he's still doing 3 RKOs in the end where he lands on his back, and then it's just a cheap finish at the end. In this case, in this match, they built up the stuff going after the midsection of Kenny Omega to the point where there was a spot in the match where Omega was going to do the Kreutz Wrath, but he couldn't get the bridge on the pin where you have all of your core strength coming in, which I thought was such a great touch. It's stuff like that that I love when you build up, when you're working a body part and you're working it throughout the match. It builds up to a spot like that where you have to make the adjustment. Stuff like that, that's what I love about selling, where you can incorporate it into stuff, into finishes, or into significant points in the match. I thought the closing sequence between these two, I mean, I wasn't shocked in terms of the closing sequence that these two would go out there and just have, you could just see the chemistry when they go out there and have those closing sequences. And even moments throughout the match, I was thinking, man, these two, like, they still have that chemistry. But this was very different from the other matches in the sense that they were working that one body part. It was kind of your classic old school wrestling type where they were working a body part throughout the match. So I really like this match. Just want to make it clear. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the work. But I will say of some of the greatest professional wrestling matches I've ever seen in this series, this was by far the weakest for me that these two have had. But it was still very good, and that just shows how high the bar is when it comes to a match like this. And obviously, Okada able to get the victory in this one.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I think if you just gave this to a wrestling fan and they had no idea who anybody was, or hey, watch this match, I think they come out of it and go, "That's a pretty good match." Like these guys do a lot of things.
Yep.
I was worried about what it would be compared to what they were. And so when it was announced, I was like, oh, they're going to live up to it. And again, live up to it is like live up to some of the greatest professional wrestling matches in the history of pro wrestling. That's what we're talking about. Like we're talking about that you could put some of those matches, like they're for sure in the top 10 all time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So that's a pretty high bar so do you have to look at it in a vacuum, or do you compare it to what they had done previously? I'm not sure. I'm going to take it for what it was. This is a really good match, but this is not one I would tell people you have to go back and watch. And that's okay. Not every match has to be that, but I wanted to be able to tell people that they should go back and watch this match because it was like this all-time, oh my God match. And it wasn't quite like that for me. The one thing, and maybe we'll disagree on, the selling of the diverticulitis, I understand it. I think it makes complete sense. I think Kenny Omega goes over the top with it. And I think sometimes it's so he takes a long time now to do things. And I think because he's overselling, it's hard because you have this thing in pro wrestling where nobody properly sells. And when they do, it's incredible. I just find sometimes I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, come on, Kenny. Like, we get it. your side hurts. If it hurt that bad, you wouldn't be in the match.
Right.
So, I'm not saying that he is slow. I'm saying some of his movements are slow, I think on purpose to try and sell this where I don't need it sold that much. I understand. We understand. You had diverticulitis. You almost died. You had 2 feet of your intestine taken out. It's an incredible story. I don't need it sold for 25 minutes every time he gets in the ring with the top star. That's all. And it just takes a long time. All that said, in a vacuum, this is a really, really, really good match. But when you're talking about Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega, you're talking about some, and I say this, and I don't think people understand, the best wrestling matches of all time.
Yep.
So if they're wrestling on a card, you just automatically think it's going to be the best match on the card because it's going to be one of the best matches of the year, and it might be one of the best matches of all time. This was not the best match on the card. And that's weird to say about those two athletes to me. But it totally made sense for Kazuchika Okada to win this because I didn't really see where he had to go afterwards if he lost. And Kenny Omega is going to be fine. And that's exactly what happened. And Kazuchika Okada wins the Unified Championship. It's main event time, Zach. 5 hours and a bit into the show. It's main event time. I wondered what the crowd would have left. I wonder what I would have left to watch Hangman Page, and Jon Moxley. Again, 2 incredible entrances. And I apologize, I don't have the woman's name that did the whistling with the acoustic guitar, but she was incredible. Then the old Hangman Page theme. Moxley comes down in one of those kind of Death Rider, Low Rider trucks. It made perfect sense. I thought the entrances were incredible. And this one, watching with a couple of people, Zach, that were not wrestling fans. And we kind of told them it's probably going to be a little bit like gory. Like things are going to happen in this match we don't often see.
Yeah.
Well, that started right away. For the AEW Heavyweight Championship of the world. And right away, Texas Death Match, the forks got into the head and busted wide open, and we were off and running. This is a match to me. So, spoiler alert. Adam Hangman Page, because that's how you say nicknames. Adam Hangman Page is your new AEW World Champion. If I were to show you a match, and we'll talk about some of the things that happened during it. If I were to show you a match that was a proper summary, and we can have this argument all day long, were there too many storylines intertwined into the main event to get there? Okay, let's have a discussion. Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is no. I don't know. But I can't remember ever watching a match that was this gory, this bloody, that tied in as many storylines as it did perfectly. This is how you main event a final show, a WrestleMania show, an All In show. This is how you main event. And these guys did an incredible job. I'm not speechless because I'm never speechless because that'd be bad for a podcaster.
Yeah.
But Hangman Page doesn't get enough credit for whatever Moxley's done beforehand. Haven't loved everything he's done. This was cinema, and this was guys risking some of their livelihood to put on a show, and they did so last night. Before we get to all the run-ins and stuff, Zach, the match itself, I thought was as good as it could ever want to be.
I agree. I love this match. I'm not usually the one. I feel like we say this a lot when we have a more violent match in AEW. But I'll say it again here in case we have some new listeners. I'm not usually one that loves the blood and gore. I don't mind blood. I don't. It's just death matches in general are not something I tend to look for in my professional wrestling. But in certain instances, when you have a heated rivalry and you have storylines coming together and something that kind of connects everything to the violence in a weird way because it's professional wrestling, when it all comes together, sometimes you get this violent masterpiece. And that's what I thought this was. I thought this was bloody, violent, felt heated, felt like a guy that was willing to do everything, both guys willing to do anything in their power to try and just do maximum damage to each other, all so that they could win this world title from All Elite Wrestling. And like what you mentioned, that shot of Hangman putting Moxley into that triangle choke and then taking the fork and then just jabbing away at his forehead, and you could just see the blood starting to spout out off of that, was quite the visual. Something, and Jim Ross mentioned on commentary, Abdullah the Butcher style, once you saw that there, but all the different spots, the glass being brought in, and the bed of nails, and the tables with the barbed wire, and the barbed wire itself being used. And then you interconnect all of that with the stories that came in. You had Darby Allin, where he had that video on top of Mount Everest talking about he was coming after John Moxley.
So let's, there's so much to talk about with this match, but
yeah.
Darby Allin cutting a promo on John Moxley from the top of Mount Everest. I'm here for this. I'm here for literally the guy is standing at the top of the highest mountain in the world. And what's he doing? He's cutting a promo on John Moxley for his work.
Like, incredible.
Incredible. Now, I will ask you, do you think that was like them showing the video, but then a run-in before that, and then Darby Allin coming afterwards? Do you think that was planned?
That's a great question, because it did seem like, because you're talking about Bryan Danielson obviously making his return and putting in the Psycho knee, coming out in a Blue Panther mask, which I enjoyed. Bryan Danielson, he's a mark like all of us, you know, coming out in a Blue Panther mask just to let everybody know who his favorite luchador is. But yeah, I do think there was a part of it where it's like, oh, there might be something here with the cable. Let's get Danielson out there as a sort of a change of pace, because Darby was taking his time coming. It is a big field, I will say. So he was taking his time.
I'm just saying they aired the video, but then Bryan Danielson came out, but then Darby came out.
Yeah.
Like just the order didn't make sense. Like, did they play the video too early? Did they like, was there a cable caught something? But okay, so Darby Allin cutting a promo on the top of Mount Everest, I'm here for. Bryan Danielson coming in, the energy of the crowd and the shots of the crowd and the excitement of the crowd when he was back. I mean, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours in, doesn't matter. Incredible. Yeah. Incredible. And are we going to get Bryan Danielson and Wheeler Yuta All Out?
Interesting. That would be I didn't think of that as we were coming away from the show. Wouldn't rule it out.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
And I think we might be in for a treat coming up in Toronto. But not the only guys. Okay, very quickly, I'm just going to get this in because it was the only thing I didn't like about the match. I did not like the fact that Will Ospreay came out and they did the same thing to him that they did to Samoa Joe at the beginning of the show. But Will Ospreay is tweeting like 3 hours later about and showing all the pictures of him and his wife and how great a time he had. Well, okay. Why would you do the same thing? Is it the consistency from the Death Riders and that's how they try and take people out? Is Will Ospreay taking time off? I doubt it with Forbidden Door coming up. I didn't like that. You could have done something else because Joe probably is going to be out for a long time. He got taken out on a stretcher. The exact same thing happened to Ospreay, and he's like on social media hours later.
Yeah. Lee, is
So,
this a case of road agents not talking to each other?
no, I think it's probably the Death Riders did both of those things, and I think the consistency of that's how they take people out. I don't like how they handled Osprey. Like, if you're not like, if Will Osprey is going to be around, and we'll see, I guess, if he is, maybe he's on a couple week vacation or whatever he is. But if he's not around, I'm all for it. Do the same thing. Take guys out and do it the same way, and they're out for a long time. But one, I think, is going to be out for a long time in Samoa Joe, and the other, I don't think is going to be out for a long time, but yet they did the same thing. Just a little nitpicky thing that I didn't like, but I do understand trying to get Will Ospreay out of the way because they still had some big things to do, including Darby, including Bryan Danielson, and then, of course, at the end, who is there? Both Prince Nana is there too. I thought this was a wonderful spot. Him ending up tying or handcuffing Marina Shafir to where she went to get the world title from, I thought was incredible. Just because nobody expected Nana to be there. He was there. And then, of course, Zach, who gives the final kind of weapon and the nod to Hangman Page? Swerve Strickland.
That's right. After the Bucks came out as well to try and interfere and super kick Hangman Page. You have Swerve Strickland giving the chain to Hangman. Rivalry kind of being put aside here so that Hangman could overcome the Death Riders. And you got a great spot in very similar to what happened in their match previously, if I recall, where you had Hangman essentially choking Moxley over the top rope with the chain, essentially hanging him over the top rope. And I thought it was great, too, in the way that you could see Moxley like desperately trying to get out, trying to find every which way possible, and then finally had to tap the coward's way out, I say, in terms of tapping. And I thought that was really well done on a finish and just an overall incredible match. I loved this match.
Yeah, and look, we talked about all the faces coming out, but you're right. I mean, between Claudio and between Wheeler Yuta, between Gabe Kidd, the Young Bucks, when Moxley got hung over the rope with the chain, he was out of options. Marina, everyone had been taken out, and they'd been taken out properly. They had been taken out. The storyline was good. So this just totally made sense. This to me was great producing, great writing, great execution by everybody. And again, if you don't like a lot of storylines, which sometimes I don't, for sure. I don't like the run in. But this time it worked because it was a culmination of all of the things that have happened over the last, like, since Jon Moxley's been the champion for like 9 months. And they tied it all in perfectly. So this to me is a lesson for everyone. Okay, you might have a lot of storylines going on, but if you want to tie them all in a long-term story and make it make sense, make it work, and have the right thing happen at the end, this is your match. And it got a little bit, I mean, doing all that, you said it, juxtaposing it with the violence that happened in this match, and this just taking the barbed wire and scraping your back, and the suplex. We were watching again with a couple of people who hadn't watched wrestling. They're like, well, why would Jon Moxley do that? I think he hurt himself more. Yeah, he did. This was perfection in a main event of a big time show, of your biggest show, the culmination of a long storyline. And this is why I watch professional wrestling, not for the blood and guts, because I'm not a blood and guts guy either. I don't like the gore, but it all made sense.
Yep. Can I also make because I think there might be some fans that are, I know we have some WWE fans that tuned in, so they might be hearing, oh, you hate it when WWE does all these run-ins, so why is AEW all of a sudden when they do all these run-ins? The difference between when WWE does all the run-ins is because they hit the music, and then the guys just run down the ramp. It's your conventional run-in, right? And they usually do it to mask the fact that the actual match itself is not really so hot. Not a lot of people are actually cheering for what's happening in the match. They're all just kind of waiting for the entrances. And they've built up a lot of those run-ins to where now people expect the run-ins to come in WWE. And then, of course, when they do happen, they hit the music. You got Pentagon Jr. doing his little strut down the wing, down to the ring. I like to call it the pervert walk, the way that he comes down to the ring. Very weird from Penta. But in AEW, the way that they did it, not one wrestler when they came out had their music hit. Not one. It was all legitimately surprising. And the fact that this is something that you don't usually see a lot in AEW with all these run-ins. And they do it in creative ways and stuff that makes sense. Plus, all these guys that were in the run-ins that we talked about before, they had, as part of this long-term story that was kind of going on with the Death Riders, all these guys are connected to the Death Riders or Hangman Page in some way, which made it super engaging with what happened in the ring. So all that kind of coming together is why I really enjoyed these run-ins more than what you would see in a WWE, a Bloodline style run-ins. Even the run-ins last year that we saw when Cena ran out and The Undertaker came in and whatnot, I felt this was way more cohesive in terms of all these guys' storylines coming together in a big moment on a big show at All In. That's why I think the run-ins worked so well for this kind of deal as opposed to what we saw in the other company.
So I will say I have not been a fan of the run-ins, even in AEW in the main events.
Yep.
I think there's been way too many in the past, and I understand WWE fans saying it can't be both. I have not enjoyed those, but in this particular case, it was as cohesive as you're ever going to find. That's the right word.
Yes.
Everything fit together. Everything was cohesive. So it made sense if you've watched the storylines evolve over the last 9 months. So Hangman Page is your new AEW World Champion, and we saw the belt, and I thought a nice little touch. The belt had not been touched since Jon Moxley won, and it still had Bryan Danielson's nameplate on it, because Moxley won it and put it in the case and never brought it out. I thought that was a nice little touch.
Agreed.
So Hangman Page, new champion, and now it feels like, okay, we got some different directions that this company is going to go. And I think it's going to be exciting to watch. But this has been a long episode, Zach. I am eager to hear your number as to what you thought that this card was. Out of 10, Zach, what is AEW All In? How does it rank?
I really like this show. Were there lower points? For sure. Was everything kind of fitting for a show like this? It wasn't. But we got a really good stadium show here. As I was watching, yes, was I feeling the length a little bit, even as somebody that watched it after it aired live and having to fast forward, I could definitely still feel the fact that it was a pretty lengthy show. But having said all of that, when the peaks were high on this show, they were super high. There was a lot of great things on this show. It really felt like, you were being rewarded for the storylines that were happening on the weekly AEW TV, culminating together on a show like this, and having it all have these big time moments, whether it be the main event or Cope running out, or Okada Omega, or the women's title match, even some of the gauntlets. I know not everything in each of the gauntlets was extraordinary, but you still had some good moments in there. I thought, and of course the Young Bucks and Ospreay Swerve match was fantastic. There was so much that I really liked about this. I will say this is better than WrestleMania this year. I'm very, very confident in saying that. I am hovering around. I'm hovering around an 8.5. I'm hovering around 8.5. If we had a little bit of a stronger undercard on some matches, I really would be looking at this as like all-time show territory, because there was a lot to really love about this show, but some of the undercard kind of put it down a little bit to an 8.5, but the 8.5 is there because of all the highs that we got, especially in that main event.
So I literally was hovering around that number, debating between an 8.5 and say an 8.75.
Yep.
It can't be a 9 to me because it was too long, and there were a couple of lows along the way in a very, very long show. But I'm going to put it around the 8.75 mark because, as you said, the highs were as gratifying as you're going to have. Like, I can't believe that I'm saying Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega was the third best match, maybe, of the card, because I would put the main event and I'd put, Swerve and Ospreay against the Bucks ahead of it for sure. And that's no slight against those guys, but just too long and a couple of lows along the way that didn't make sense. But the highs were as gratifying, I think, for a wrestling fan as you're going to find. Some incredible moments and, some top tier production, I thought, as well. So I thought it came across really well. It was too long, so there's no debate. It can't be that long. Again, it just can't be. And that's been some of the problems for AEW. If you had a stadium show that was 4:15 and had the matches and didn't have the lows, it's an all-time show. But you can't have a 6-hour show and it'd be like a 9 or 10. So I'm gonna go around the 8.75 mark, because just as a fan, man, the gratification from some of those matches were just the highest of highs to me. So I'm gonna put it there. We're very close to the same number. I think we feel very similar about the show. Love to hear people's thoughts on the show, and I promise that Zach and I will be back very, very soon to talk about Saturday night's main event, Evolution, and get some WWE talk going on here. But this was an incredible card, an incredible night, and I hope it propels AEW to some further heights coming up. Especially, look, we're biased, but we're going to All Out. People have a chance to still go to All Out in Toronto if they want to in the middle of September. And right now, it looks like we're going to get some sort of, like, even if I project the future, Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, Adam Copeland and Christian against FTR. Maybe we get MJF against Hangman Page. There's going to be a lot to look forward to with what's coming up here around the corner. So, Zach, this has been long, but just like the show, right? A long review for a long show.
That's right.
That's the way it goes. And we'll be back very shortly talking about And Your Acclaim night with Junior Benito as well. So lots to still get to in a massive weekend for pro wrestling. But for Zach McGibbon, I'm Lee Versage. Thanks again for listening to This Is Wrestling.